Welcome to Dream Big Today. My name is Debbie, and this is a magnificent Monday. It's a little bit chilly in my neighborhood, and I'm sure in yours too, because you know what? December's this week. And so we know what that's going to be like. And so anyway, just get ready. I'm getting all of my warm stuff out. So and I like to bundle up and in my house I keep it really cool so I can bundle and get my blanket out and get my book and just sit there and read and watch the fireplace. Now I don't do that all day long. So but I do take my breaks and I sit down and I just have some peace and rest. And so thank you for joining me this morning. And if you would put your prayer requests and your praise reports in the chat box, we love to pray with you, to celebrate with you, and just to let you know you're not alone. You could be you could have uh, family members that don't even live with you that are experiencing something. We'll join you in prayer for that. You could be sitting in the hospital right now thinking, man, I wished I was at home and I could be praying. Well, you can pray there too, and you can pray for everybody that's there. We can pray with you as you're sitting there. There's no limitations to prayer. That's the beauty of it. We don't have to have a priest step into the holy of holies. We can just start praying to Jesus right now. And so, if you would like this page, and we have an app you can get on to, or you can download. It's free and it works most of the time. I haven't been on it for a little while because I'm on this side of it. But we use the 1 Year Bible, and it's just so easy to use because we can read a little bit of Old Testament, a little bit of New Testament, Psalms and Proverbs, and we've got 1 month left basically, and we will have read it all over again this year. And each time we get something brand new out of it. His word is just so alive. And it's not like you're sitting there with grandma hearing the stories over and over and over again that they she may have she may elaborate a little bit more, embellish a little bit more, but it's still the same story. This has so many levels to it that things just start popping, and you see it different than what you did. It's all about your walk and where you're at. Um, so we are in Daniel 4 today, and what a story. I love Daniel. I'm going to be talking about, I guess, a lot about love today. Um, King Nebuchadnezzar, however you want to put the emphasis on his name, was quite the man. You know, God can use anybody. He can. It doesn't matter whatever he needs to expand his kingdom, to move it forward. He can use anybody, and that's the beauty of it. He can use a mean king, a selfish king. He can use an insecure person. He can use a strong person. It doesn't matter. So here's Nebuchadnezzar, and so we he's got Daniel in the friends and all that. We've read the first 3 chapters so far. So now it says King Nebuchadnezzar sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Man, and he didn't even have internet. How do you suppose he did all of that? I don't know. It's interesting to think, how did that take place? But he goes on to say, now I'm trying to decide if I want to read this, what version I want to read this out of. I've got my New King James Version here, and I think I'm going to read it out of that. He says, to all the peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I thought it was good to declare the signs and wonders that the Most High God has worked for me. How great are his signs, and how mighty his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourishing in my palace, and I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts on my bed and the visions in my head troubled me. So he gets his all of his people to come in and talk to him about his dream, to tell. He says, had all of the wise men of Babylon here before me, that they may make known to me the interpretation of the dream. Well, he did a lot of praising there. But we're going to see when as we get on into a few more verses, that although he's praising Daniel's God, he still doesn't believe in him completely or submit to him alone. And so it's kind of like everybody, or not everybody, but you can be around people that claim to be a solid Christian believer, but their actions don't show it. Don't you know your actions should show? That's the fruit, that you do believe in God. We see people that come to church that really doesn't appear to believe, but it's not us to judge. One of my notes in my Bible says, "How do your beliefs match with your obedience?" What a little statement, but that is power packed. So let's look over here at verse 8. So he's called all these people, and they couldn't tell him what his dream meant. So look at verse 8. At last, Daniel came in before me, and I told him the dream. Now, in parentheses, he was named Belteshazzar, after my God, not his God, my God, and the spirit of the holy gods is in him. So look at that. He's under the impression that false god Bel provided Daniel for him. He said in 9, I said to him, Belshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, that no mystery is too great for you to solve. Now tell me what my dream means. See, being impressed with our God isn't the same as being converted. So we don't see Nebuchadnezzar showing that he is looking up to our Heavenly Father. And so now he goes on to talk about telling his dream. I'm at the end of the year always, whenever I've got not that much Bible left in this, and it gets hard to hold. But I underlined and highlighted some things in the next few scriptures. He says in verse 13, as I lay here dreaming, I saw a messenger, a holy one. Now it's interesting. It is like a watchman, but I highlighted that because he goes on to mention that several more times. This messenger, this holy one. In verse 15 says, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with a band of iron and bronze, and surrounded by tender grass. Now this is cutting down the tree and lopping it off and shaking everything off. This is foreshadowing a restoration. So then he goes on to say, talk about 7 periods of time, and we'll see that mentioned like 4 more times. I mean, then we are being reminded of that as we're reading this. In verse 17, for this has been decreed by the messengers, which is that watchman. It is commanded by the holy ones. You notice that it's small letters, it's not capitalized, so that everyone may know the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world. And so Daniel, in verse 19, was overcome for a time. It says, frightened by the meaning of the dream. He knew what this meant. And he says, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my Lord, and not to you. So you're the tree. And you have grown strong and great. Your greatness reaches up to heavens, and your rule to the earth. You rule to the ends of the earth. Then you saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven, saying, I'm going to stop just for a second. I've got a good note over here on for verse 14 where it's talking about the messengers, because I think we need to know that one today. This verse 17, I'm going to read that out of the NIV. The decision is announced by messengers. The holy ones declare the verdict, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over kingdoms of men, and gives them to anyone he wishes, and sets over them the lowest ones. Now listen to this. One of the most difficult lessons to learn is that God is sovereign. He is above all of those who are above us. He limits the power and authority of all government, of all business, of all religious leaders of the world. He limits that. God is still in control. Those who live in freedom and with a relatively high degree of autonomy find this difficult to understand. While we may feel as though we're free to do what we please, God is still sovereign over all of our plans. What does it look like in the natural? We don't like it. We don't like whenever we see things that's going on. We can't. We're not in control. Man, I'm not in control. I find that out every day. I'm not in control. But he's talked about all of these periods of times and what's going to happen. He's going to be, where is it at? What the dream means, Your Majesty. You'll be driven from human society, and you will live in the fields with the wild animals. You'll eat grass like a cow, and you will be drenched with dew of heaven. 7 periods of time will pass, and you'll live this way. Well, what do you suppose Nebuchadnezzar thought whenever he told him what that dream meant? He probably was reviewing that in his mind. Maybe I didn't dream that after all. But look at verse 27. Daniel says, King Nebuchadnezzar, please accept my advice. Stop sinning and do what's right. Break from your wicked past and be merciful to the poor. Perhaps then you will continue to prosper. Don't you want to say that to somebody today? Stop sinning. Do what is right. Quit doing that stuff you've been doing all this time, because what's going to happen is you're going to go to hell. What would be a great step for somebody like that is, you're going to go out and walk on all fours and eat grass in the field with all the other cows and whatever animal has tracked across there and did their business on the grass. But he's warning him to stop. Well, things are still going okay. He woke up. He forgot about all of that probably. This is my little add to. Then in verse 29, 12 months later, a year later, he's had this, he's had the warning, he's had the interpretation. A year later, things have been going great. He's walking out, he's looking across the city, and he says, look at this great city of Babylon. Remember, Babel means confusion. Babylon is like the false city. It says, by my own mighty power, I have built this beautiful city as my royal residence to display my majestic splendor. Well, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Those words were still in his mouth. He hadn't even put a punctuation mark at the end of what he was saying. And a voice called out. I would imagine he's shivering in his shoes or sandals. O King Nebuchadnezzar, this message is for you. You are no longer ruler of this kingdom. You will be driven out. You will live in the fields like that with the animals and eat grass like a cow, just like Daniel said a year ago when he told you to quit and you didn't do it. 7 periods of time. His sentence was 7 periods of time, probably walking on all fours, grazing. And he had to serve it all. He probably thought, oh, that's not fair. A week after that, he probably thought, I promise I'll do better. Well, you know what? You did it yourself, King. That same, and then it says, the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses. No matter what it looks like today, whether it is in your job, your government, whatever you're associated with. God, the Most High God, is the God of promotion. He is the God in control. We read Job. Job's life looked so awful with things going on. He lost everything, and he also experienced the boils and the sickness, and his wife was fussing at him too. God was still in control. Whatever you are experiencing today, God is still there. It may not feel just real good right now, but you know what? He is walking through the valley of the shadow of death with you, but you will fear no evil because he is with you. He is not leaving you there to leave you there. He's walking with you, holding your hand and taking you through it. You are experiencing something, and you are getting stronger and stronger with each step that you take, because in Psalms today it says his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light for our path. He's lighting up the way for you right now. And so that same hour the judgment was fulfilled, Nebuchadnezzar was driven from human society. He lived this way until his hair was as long as eagle feathers and his nails were like birds' claws. I can't imagine what that looked like. So then, after that time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up to heaven. My sanity returned, and I praised and worshiped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. And I thought, he had been crawling around, and he had to look up because for his whole 7 periods he was having to look down because he's on all fours, and that's the only way that he could survive. And that's all my thoughts on that. In verse 36 it says, when my sanity returned to me, so did my honor and glory and kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar learned a lesson about pride, and it was a tough one. James 4:6 tells us God resists the proud, but gives his grace to the humble. What do we need to tone down today and repent of? Is there just a little bit of pride rolling through you right now? It says, now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and glorify and honor the King of heaven, and all his acts are just and true, and he is able to humble the proud. More good, I can't talk. More good stories to come about Daniel tomorrow. So now, 2 Peter 1, more lessons, life lessons on how to live, what to do. Peter is speaking to, let me tell you who he's speaking to all believers everywhere. It was to the church at large, but all believers everywhere. Whenever he says, this letter is from Simon Peter, it's using his whole name, a slave and apostle of Jesus Christ. I'm writing to you who share the same precious faith we have. I hope that you've been reading this. I don't even know how to start on what I want to say, but one of the notes that I had made, and this is gonna, I don't even know if you can see this or not. Bill, right there. Okay, so faith. It's talking about in 2 Peter 1, 5 through 7. I'm just going to jump on down. In view of everything that we've read so far, make every effort to respond to God's promises. Supplement your faith with, and then it's got a list. And so I heard a pastor talking about this, and I thought it was so cool. So we've got faith. Faith is it's like we're going to read it backwards. And imagine like a layer cake. So it's a faith cake. So what we're going to add to it is virtue. Supplement your faith with a generous provision of moral excellence. Then after that, we're going to add knowledge. And after that, with knowledge, we're going to add self-control. And with self-control, perseverance, patient endurance. And then we're adding godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection or brotherly kindness. And with brotherly affection, with love for everyone. So it's like this layer cake that you have. The love, the love is the last thing that just is the icing on the whole cake. Love for everybody. It's all about love. We read that in Corinthians. And we read that throughout the whole book of the Bible. It's a love story. It's for us. And so faith being the basis of it. Faith must be more than belief in a certain fact. It must result in action. Look at all these actions with that. Growth in Christian character and the practice of moral discipline, or it will die away. Look at James 2, 14 through 17. We read that here not too long ago. James 2, 14 through 17. James 2, 14 through 17. We have a promise in here. Well, lots of promises. There's one that I wanted to point out. Well, and then verse 8. The more you grow like this, the more productive and useful you'll be in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. We've got to study. We've got to read and meditate and pray and ask him to reveal what it is on that day that we can receive. But it says those who fail to develop this way are short-sighted or blind and forgetting that they have been cleansed from their own sin. See, we start thinking, oh, but I did that, and so he'll never forgive me for that. He's cleansed you from everything, so you don't even have to mess with that anymore. Verse 10 says, so dear brothers and sisters, work hard to prove that you are really among those God has called and chosen. You know, we can think back and, what we just read on Nebuchadnezzar, because he didn't show that he believed in God. He kept talking about my God, little g God, spirit of the holy gods. He was talking about Bel, not our Father in heaven. and his actions didn't show that he believed in that. But it says, do these things, everything that we've seen here on this page. Go back, read, and meditate and study on that. Do these things, and you will never fall away. That's a promise. Back up in 3, it says, by his divine power, God has given us everything that we need for living a holy or a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know him, the one who called us to him by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. He called us. We're chosen. We're his chosen people. And he's given you every single thing that you need for this day. So, and then verse 12, therefore, I will always remind you about these things, even though you already know them and are standing firm in the truth you have been taught. Even though we've talked about this over and over and over again, we're going to tell you again just to stir up your reminders. Sometimes I might know something, but I might tend to forget it. Oh, another thing, you know what? My husband told me that he loved me, but he needs to tell me every day, because if he doesn't, then I'm going to think, well, maybe he doesn't love me today. He did yesterday, but why doesn't he tell me again today? Sometimes we have to, let's stir up some of the reminders that he's talking about. So many great things in 2 Peter today. I'm getting close to time. Read and meditate on this. Make you some little cards that just for everything that pops out for you, and then put it on your wall. Put it up there where you can just look at it. Let that be your reminder. Let these things stir you up as you sit down at your desk or your recliner. Make that be a bookmark for the book you're reading. Put it on the dash of your car. Whatever. But when you do that, then you will be reminded of his word all the time. I love those little notes, and sometimes when I get back into my office and I've got them stuck everywhere, and I think, oh yeah, I remember about that. I've got a little note in my Bible right now when let's see, it's been 2 years ago. I copied a little note that my grandson wrote to me, thanking me for praying for him. And all of the little sweet things that he said, those little notes are nice reminders, because if I wouldn't have had that in my Bible today, he sent it to me on this day, I would have not remembered it. So do that. Let's jump really quick onto Psalms 119:97. And I like the Hebrew alphabet in that. We've got 2 of them today. And everything is still talking about instructions and the word. It's oh how I love your instructions. I think about them all day long. Your commands make me wiser than my enemies. That's why we read the Bible. Now, I looked up the alphabet, mem, and if you look on over above 105, none. So mem, and I've written it down on my card, means your promises, there's the M, are sweeter than honey, there's the E, to my mouth. And whenever it's acrostic, when you look down, then there spells mem. And it helped them to memorize and learn and remember. And then when we get over to 105, and I love these. Oh, I like them all. But 105 is, your word is a lamp and to guide my feet and a light for my path. I think how awesome. To me, that's telling me that even though he's guiding my feet, I can see each step that I'm stepping on, there's a little bit of glow for the path. So I can see which direction he's wanting me to go. You may have something totally different than that. But none. Let's look at that. And so again, N-U-N, and I've got 3 lines there. No darkness. No darkness. Your word is a light unto my path, like noonday sunshine. N-U-N. And so I like having those in my Bible too. Uh, I I've promised it once and I'll promise it again. I will obey your righteous regulations. That's why we read the Bible every day. We can be reminded with all of these things that we're gonna add to our faith. It's an exercise. Self-control. I mean, we're talking about some fruits of the spirits here, but I have to exercise self-control. I have to dig in and knowledge. God doesn't want his people to be ignorant, and that's of anything. We study the Bible, but we also expand our knowledge on other things too, and that's what we do. That's what we do. Be aware, be knowledgeable about God's creation, and stick with it. Be nice, love people. Oh, there's so, I could just go over my little card over and over and over, but I can't do it. My time is up and I'm still on a roll. So I guess I'll continue. I'll go wake my husband up and I'll start reading it to him. And so anyway, you all have a great day and come back and join us for new nuggets. Leslie's going to be doing that for me today. And so that is going to be awesome. She will have a great word to bring to us. So